we get it. You chose adversity. You got cold today. I got to ask, man, can we cold plunge without it becoming our new personality trait?
I mean, you can't beat it. You get into cold water for 2 minutes. You come out like, tell me you don't feel like a superhero.
How can something exist that's objectively can serve the masses, but there is still that kind of wedge now being presented to some people to access that?
Focusing on the product. Like, we have our product, it's good. How do we make it great? The business was shut down. All my income dried up because of that. So I sold all my stuff and moved into an RV.
These are kind of the stories I love to share on the show because this is what living a life ever forward is all about.
I didn't expect it to be taken up this quickly by this amount of people. That's what's been like such a cool part from a business end, but also just humanity. I was like, I didn't know there were this many people out there that were willing to like first spend this kind of money to do something this uncomfortable to better themselves. The biggest one we do see is this mental health conversation. People that are doing it like I said, I feel better. I'm happier. I'm a better father. I'm more connected to my child. And that's what dopamine does. Dopamine creates focus. Dopamine creates determination. You know, that was the plan. And then the other big win of how this kind of really took off was
I've got the guy here who's responsible for everybody's most annoying Instagram reels, TikToks. Like, we get it. You chose adversity. You got cold today. I got to ask, man, can we cold plunge without it becoming our new personality trait?
Short answer, no. It is, I mean, you can't beat it. You get into cold water for 2 minutes. You come out like, tell me you don't feel like a superhero. Like every single time I do it, I've been doing it for years, and I come out and I still want to yell to the world, like, just I feel fucking great. Like,
And share it with the world for damn sure.
Totally.
I heard you say in a recent interview that you and the team are currently in the process of going from good to great. And this concept is kind of top of mind for me right now. It's a great book, by the way, Good to Great. I forget the author, but from kind of the business perspective and development, I know you're a very curious person, a very hungry person, a very how do we make it better kind of thing. But you guys have something that's very good. How do you go from good to great? What does that look like at Plunge?
I mean, it's across the board. I could go in everything that we do, whether it's just focusing on the product. Like, we have our product, it's good. How do we make it great? Like, how do we make it, you know, all the things. Like, we get feedback. We have probably more customer feedback than any company on cold plunging. I want a quieter unit. I want it to get cold faster. I want it to stay cold more. I wanted to have this feature with app accessibility. Okay, cool. How do we take that, make that great? And then I go marketing department. How are we, what's our story? What's our messaging? It's good. How do we make it great? Like, it's just a level up going from a company that started in a garage to, you know, bringing on more experienced people, more talented people. We all get more experience and being like, okay, if we're not improving and getting better, then, you know, we're not doing that's not what we're out to do. We want to be what great is. And that's kind of an endless journey. You know, it's like
the infinite game, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's more of the conversation of just like being able to reflect on ourselves. And I mean, I look at like how we manufacture the product and how we're just sourcing the product and our supply chain, like all like deep into it. Like, you know, we have our structure. It's worked. It's been good. How do we become great? What are the great companies out there? How do we go mirror them and then up level ourselves?
That's kind of what you guys offer. You know, you're offering a way for people to go from good to great as well.
Totally, man.
You know?
Yeah. I hadn't even really, I mean, I think about like a plunge and how it like changes someone's life, but yeah, it's literally, that's the game that's going on.
Co-sign that tagline. Works for me.
Good to great. We're taking it.
Really just going from warm to cold. But it's ninja good to great, right?
Totally.
You know, all this came about in a very uncertain time. And these are kind of the stories I love to share on the show because this is what living a life ever forward is all about. You hit a wall, or the wall was brought to you, like a lot of us, you know, happened during COVID. We couldn't go to a lot of places, lockdowns, things were shut down, reopened, shut down. There was a lot of uncertainty in the world. And for a lot of small business owners, that was very uncertain. And you were running these float tanks at the time, which I could argue, I think a lot of people would argue, are very medically necessary, very contributory to health, but the government said no. And in that time, you know, I think when a lot of people maybe would have asked why me or gone down a rabbit hole of not turning it into something good. You did. How did you do that? What was that mindset? What was that shift like for you from they just told me to stop my life's work to I got to do something else?
Ups and downs. I mean, I for sure had days where it was kind of why me. And in that, but yeah, the government. So Mike, my co-founder, and I, we both own brick and mortar float tank businesses. That's what we had done. We had become friends through that. Weren't business partners, but became friends through that. Both in Northern California, and COVID hits. We have shut them down. He had just happened to be moving to Sacramento, which was kind of a total coincidence. He had moved up like April. It was already set in stone. He moved up April from the Bay Area. So he arrives. And I remember he was very adamant with me of like, I'm coming out the other side better than this right now. Like, and he put his flag down and it resonated with me. And I was like, he vocalized it and it was like, no, this is happening.
So you're like, I'm with this guy.
Exactly. Yeah. It was my personal, like I had gone, that was a very unique time for me personally. I had my partner who we're together now, but we broke up at that time. The business was shut down. All my income dried up because of that. So I sold all my stuff and moved into an RV. So
wow.
So that was like, that all happened within about 2.5 months, 3 months. And, Mike he was sitting here of like, we were both into cold plunging and he was like, I'm going to build a cold plunge. He's an engineer at heart. That's what he does. He built a float tank back before he started Reboot. So he started.
This is what, like right around 2020, early 2020?
This is April and May of 2020.
Okay.
So he starts.
So you guys got to work quick.
Yeah. So everything shuts down. Everyone's at home. I'm kind of going through what I just had mentioned to you. So focusing on that with my life a bit, trying to get the business back open too. Capital Floats at the time, it was like, how do we get this back open?
Yeah.
Getting ready for that, all the PPP and all the financial, that was where my focus was. He starts working on this Plunge product and creating one. God, there's got to be one that's a better price point and looks better. That was kind of the goal. He starts doing it, and then he actually approaches me. This was probably summer of 2020. Hey, what do you think? You want to start a business? You want to go into business together? And I actually said no to start. And
really?
It was.
Why?
He was doing this in his garage, and I walk in and I see the product, and I think he was showing me this is a prototype. This is super beta product. I was thinking he's showing me the product. He's the product guy, and I'm not
what
quite.
Is this shit?
I'm not exact. I'm like, dude, I'm not putting my name behind this. And he was like, cool. And so he kind of steps back, and I was like, I got some other things in my personal life that this isn't my best moment to go launch a company. 4 weeks. It wasn't a long time. He brings me back. Hey, what do you think? And it had like made drastic improvements. And I was like, this is incredible. And I basically like, let me think about this. And I think a week or two later was like, let's do it. I'm all in. And so we launched. I remember we turned the website on in September of 2020. We made a little Shopify plugin. We made a commitment to say we'll sell 20 of these. We had our email list from our brick and mortars, Capital Floats and Reboot. And we're like, these seem like crossover customers. Let's just email them and say, hey, this is what we've been doing over the pandemic. Who wants to buy one? We'll hand deliver to your house. They were all in Northern California. Mike had a van. So that was our plan how do we get our first 20 customers? We'll get our first 20 customers. We'll go shake their hand. We'll set this up at their house. We'll learn about the products. So by doing that, we had built trust with all these people. They trusted us for our business.
Sure, yeah.
We were able to launch the product super quick for a very low cost or very low investment from our end. And if there were issues, we had trust with these people and they knew we were going to make it right. So we didn't have to deal with shipping because we were hand delivering the unit.
It was all local.
All local from San Francisco to Sacramento. And so that was our first, that was the plan. And then the other big win of how this kind of really took off was at the time, you got to think back to August, September of 2020. Cold plunging was very niche at this time. There was the Wim Hof world. If you were really into health and wellness, you were into this. So the term cold plunge, if you looked at Google Trends at the time, the term ice bath was like 10x higher than cold plunging, like that term. But our network, we were like, we use the vernacular cold plunge. Like, I'm going to go cold plunge. I am cold plunging. So we bought the coldplunge.com, the domain, for $10.
No shit.
And
that was available?
Oh, yeah. Coldplunge.com was redirecting to this random sauna company, and they weren't even using it. They weren't even selling cold plunges. And so we were like, this is a wasteland. Like, no one is using this term. So we bought the coldplunge.com. So we're selling to our first 20 customers. We're in the garage. Within our first month, we're first page ranking on Google in that search term.
Wow.
So we there is always like a bit of luck and fate that kind of hits it. So we hit this market moment where that started to accelerate. I remember we're in the garage building it. Him and I, we're the ones building these units. People are calling all over the country. Damn. Hey, I've been looking for a year. I didn't even know you guys existed. They thought we were a much larger company than we were. So at this point, we're starting to take orders.
Damn.
And so that was like a big accelerant. And that was, and that was with no spend. That was with no zero. All organic.
That's amazing.
And then the next phase was Aubrey Marcus was in his chest freezer. And we just, it was a comment. We were like, hey, let's upgrade. Can we upgrade you? And he's like, are you serious? DMs us. He's like, hey, fly out to Austin.
Yeah.
And that was our first unit we ever shipped was to his house.
Was to Aubrey?
Yeah.
Damn.
And so, that kind of got us into this, like this social media world that you talk about of like, we just really valued every relationship and took care of anyone that anyone introduced us to and over delivered into what we kind of were giving out or providing or connecting with everyone. So that was kind of the first 6-month playbook of kind of going from zero to wherever we went.
Why Cold Plunge as a business model? It sounds like you guys were in the similar realm, recovery, wellness in the float tank space. But what was it about this that you saw as a viable next option? Like people want this, it could be a successful business. Like how did you know that? How did you see that?
No incredible foresight here. It was more of like, I'll speak for myself on this. It's like, for me, I was super into it. I loved it. Everything that I've ever started has always been from just like sheer passion. Like, I love this. Like I used to work
in a bad place to start.
Yeah. It's like, I got into soccer. I used to work in professional soccer on the business side, but I just loved soccer. So I was like, this is what I want to work in. Float tanks. I started floating. I was like, I love this. It's always been like this balance of selfishness with like being like selfless, I selflessly want to share this because this has changed my life. Selfishly, there's a great opportunity here. This is interesting. It's going to connect me with more interesting people. Like that's kind of always been the playbook. So
if Aubrey Marcus is DMing you back, I think you got something.
Totally. Right, that was the one where I think the product market fit was bigger than we anticipated. So yes, I thought my group of friends were all in love with this. I knew what this did for you. Like short windows of time, you get this ROI and how you're feeling coming out after. I didn't expect it to be taken up this quickly by this amount of people. That's what's been like such a cool part from a business end, but also just humanity. I was like, I didn't know there were this many people out there that were willing to like first spend this kind of money to do something this uncomfortable to better themselves, which I thought has just been super cool and exciting to see.
Well, I don't think a lot of people really knew that that's what they wanted until they began to see literally everybody on social media doing it.
Yes.
It didn't come up as a thing for me until I think maybe early or summer 2022. It just seemed to be this new thing that it was the new biohack. It was the new thing. It was the new thing that everybody was doing to kind of like create content, but also, hey, if you want to be successful, do this. Hey, if you want to figure out how to overcome adversity, do this. Hey, if you want to increase these biomarkers, do this. It was like the new hack for all the human optimization space people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cool way to show, like you said, you're doing something hard.
Yeah.
It was different.
Yeah.
And, there's something, the tub, the look of it. It was just this, it took the world by storm.
The rubber ducky.
Yeah, exactly. Good call.
Which fun fact for the listeners, I didn't know this about the duck, that you guys include it now because it used to be part of just a finalization production process, right?
Yeah,
you would just throw it in, hey, this is duck float, cool, drain it, get it out of here.
It was literally my general manager at Capital Floats.
Yeah.
She came over to our first small warehouse we had and she gave me a gift. She just wanted to see it. Yeah. Her partner worked there. So she gave me the duck and we needed and so I had this duck and then we had to find a way to be like, okay, when is a tub finished? So we'd fill it up, it'd go through quality control.
Yeah.
And we're not doing a ton of tubs at this time. So it's like, oh, we have this duck. If the duck's in here and it's floating, then it's done. And so we just started using the duck and then it became like this cult figure.
Became a thing.
Yeah. And we've had that duck has been in the you know, LeBron James videos, like, you know, Jake Paul, like the most impressions of this random duck just floating around.
I like anytime I post up mine, I'm like, look here, me and my drunk duck again, because like it inevitably just turns upside down.
Yeah.
So apparently, if you plunge too long, you get inebriated, I guess.
We've just stuck with that duck that we might have upgraded. I don't know. Actually, the new ones going out might be floating now, but they would just turn upside down.
But you know, what's the ultimate point here with this? You know, aside from the business aspect, what is the ultimate goal? What problem are you solving? What solution are you giving people for investing money, but also consciously choosing to do something very difficult and unpleasant? Like, how is this going to serve us?
There's a couple of pieces here. I think first and foremost, you just like at the tip, without getting into like physiology, biologically, what it's
We'll
happening
just
to
have
you.
to insert a Huberman Lab episode for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, like, I'm always clear, like, I'm not the scientist guy, and I'm like very big and like not promote people. I push people. A lot of our partners are better at that than I am. So I don't ever try and fake that. But what you're getting in, I mean, you're coming out and you're feeling incredible. That's just like, if you do it, that's undeniable. That's let's start there. Can we just acknowledge that you come out, you feel incredible, and that's a huge win. The next piece to this is I liken it to, we go to the gym for our body and our muscles. Go to the gym to tear down your muscles and they grow back stronger. That's a process that we go through. This is kind of the gym for your nervous system. You're getting in, it's a stressor on the system. It's, you know, it's what the point of it is. Your adrenaline's coming in, you're getting this fight or flight reaction, and that's good. That's the signal that we want. And then you get in there and you actually learn how to control and regulate and calm yourself down in that. And that usually happens a minute in, 90 seconds in. Those that do it, like, you understand there's a moment that you kind of, you settle in. And you know, what are the downstream impacts of that? That's pretty large. You know, we see a ton of people, just for the nervous system, what that does to, from hormonal dynamics to autoimmune issues that are coming up, to just knowing how to regulate yourself in a stressful environment.
Yeah.
And it's really rare when you think about it, like, to be able to control a fight or flight scenario. Most of the time we don't get to be in control of that. That's someone cutting us off in an unexpected moment. That's someone yelling at us at some moment. You know, we don't, and you have a reaction. Where this, you can actually prepare and be like, I know I'm getting into something and I'm going to lose my breath. And my brain is going to say, get out of here.
Yeah.
Walking up to it, it's saying, don't do this. All the things, every single time. I do it every morning. And it doesn't change.
Self-talk walking up to the plunge, man.
It's
every
crazy.
damn time.
And you just get used to it, and you recognize it. You see it for what it is. That's not going anywhere. So I think that is one of the most powerful aspects to it. And then we just see, like, the biggest one we do see is this mental health conversation. People that are doing it, like I said, I feel better. I'm happier. I'm a better father. I'm more connected to my child. Like,
wow.
Those are that's what's showing up. I feel more, I have more drive to go after something, you know, and that's what dopamine does. Dopamine creates focus. Dopamine creates determination. Like, that's how it shows up. So
how many of us are losing dopamine now just, you know, doing this all the time?
I'm as addicted as anyone on this thing.
So here's a way to kind of replenish that.
It's a counter to that. And you know, what's incredible is it's like a 2 to 3 minute time. There's very few things in ROI to do from this. And it's really, you have to do the hard thing, but it's not even asking us to like do intense breath work or go for a run. It's just get in and breathe and surrender for 2 to 3 minutes, and you get out and it does it all for you.
It reminds me of this, shout out homie Greg Anderson, this other amazing podcast, Endless Endeavor.
I met Greg.
You know Greg?
Greg at, I believe I met Greg.
He probably maybe at like a First Forum event, or he is big in jiu-jitsu as well.
Okay.
He has this phrase of microdose adversity. And I really feel like it doesn't get much better than getting cold for a minute, 2 minutes for the cascading benefits and the longevity of the benefits than that. It's all about microdosing adversity. Would you say that that's kind of what we're really getting through here with plunging?
Yeah, I think it's a great tool for that. It's not the end all to be all, but it's absolutely one of the big ones. I think in this world of, you know, as the world gets more comfortable, Like we are creating comfort, and I love that. I want a nice warm home. I want a comfortable bed. I want these things, but we have a natural gravitation towards comfort. And there's a counterbalance to that. That's how we've evolved. We need some level, like you said, to build this resilience.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, sauna, cold plunging, working out, breath work, like these are just tools that we're understanding of like, oh, this is a way to counterbalance to live these lives of comfort that we all desire and that we all want.
Yeah. How has this kind of called you out in a way, shifting from one business to another, and especially the way that it has been so well received? I'm sure it's got to be a lot more demanding than maybe what you were doing in the beginning of COVID. What have you seen of yourself by having to grow with this company and grow with this movement, really?
I think a lot of, I'd say peaks and valleys. Everything's like accelerated right now into like my growth curve. And so, I've never built a company of this size.
This quickly.
Yeah. And we have a team of 160, 170 people.
Wow.
That's happened in 3 years.
3 years.
We tripled this year, in the last like 9 months. So I don't have that experience. So I'm learning on the fly. And thankfully I have a co-founder and a co-CEO. We actually run the company that way.
Okay.
And that's been, I think, one of our greatest kind of hacks into how we do it. I think a lot of imposter syndrome and accepting that. Like,
how so?
I get in situations like I've never been here. I don't know what this conversation. I don't even know what this terminology means.
I feel it.
It's like
who invited me in this room?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of supposed to be the centerpiece of this conversation. Like I'm driving this convo, and I don't. So it's a lot of that's either like, okay, just figure it out, or own up to it and get vulnerable and be transparent and ask questions and say, I don't know. And the hack for me has been like, thankfully the company's grown and we just hire really good people. So I get to I get to learn from all these people that have done it 20, 30 years experience to come in. I'm like, okay, now I just get to observe you and accelerate my learning a lot quicker.
What does the hiring process look like for Plunge? Do you conduct the whole interview in a Plunge, and whoever makes it to the end, man. Makes the cut? Like, what does it look like, for this type of product, but also for such a fast growing company?
Yeah.
The phrase comes to mind, quick to fire, slow to hire. What is kind of your philosophy in looking at bringing people on that are going to have to contribute to the growth of such a fast growing company?
Yeah, I think we've been quick to hire due to like what we've had to have happen.
Like demand, like we need to fill this position.
We need to fill this role. We're like, the growth. Yeah, we have to, we're already behind. Like we have to find the right person. What has helped accelerate to find the right people? First, we have a product that's very positively impactful. Like it attracts a certain type of person. People that are like, a
crazy person.
Crazy. Like I get what this is about.
Right,
I get what's going, like if you're attracted to that, it's already saying something about you. We did a really big deep dive and distillation into like our core values and mission and vision. We actually brought in a specialist, and it took us about 6 months. Leadership was all in on it. And we created like what we felt and got a team buy-in, really from Mike and I down, but like, who are we? What is this? And that's like that's involved in every interview. It's been involved in every review. All of leadership's reviewed on this and on these core values. So that's been great from like an interviewing process. And then for every final interview, we bring them in and they sauna and plunge.
Really? You do?
Yeah, we do. And so it's the final.
I love that.
It's been,
wow.
And it's really more of like, not if you're just can handle it so well. It's like, are you just willing to do that? Because it's uncomfortable. I get it. You show up, you're going to get in a bathing suit with your potential employer, and
is HR present for all of this?
What's that?
Does HR have to be present for all of this?
Our VP of HR went through this process. We're very mindful into, male, female, like who's involved in that interview process, what that's like. The room is blocked out. It's not some like we're upfront about it. And it's been a hit. People get excited on it. You also see not only just to go through that experience, but some people we just hired our senior VP of manufacturing and supply chain guy, incredible experience, ran of all Mattel's Asia and US
Oh, wow. Okay.
manufacturing. So, just started.
Nice track record.
Yeah, huge hire for us. He doesn't cold plunge. He's like he's into hiking, but it's like he's just into the company. He's like, I see the opportunity
So I'm
here.
on board with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And so he comes up to cold plunge, and it's like it's a nerve-wracking experience for him. Yeah. It's like, man, I've never done this. Like, I'm gonna get in. Can I do this? Like, and I love to see just the willingness to be like, you're gonna do it, and we got you, and we're just gonna breathe with you, and then we go get in the sauna and everyone's feeling lit and we're in the sauna, and then the conversation gets way better. Then we get deeper to the core of like, what's our mission? Like, where are we going? And usually at that point, it's very clear we're all in, they're all in, or it's not, and there's still questions. And usually if there's still questions after that, we're clear that it's probably not the best fit for all parties. And so we started to put that into play about a year ago.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So far in your journey with Plunge, again, with just the incredible success and growth that you guys have had, can you give us one area in which you're on the right path? Like, I know I am meant to be serving this mission. This is the right product. Like, I'm the guy. And what is one other area where you feel like you have the most room to navigate in your entrepreneur journey?
Great questions.
Because I still feel like, coming up this December, I think will be 7 years for me of doing my own thing. And I feel like in so many ways, like, oh yeah, of course, it could only be me. In so many still in other ways, I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, I think I that's kind of my reaction to that. It's like, I think for me, it's first off, personally, like, do I still wake up excited to work on what we're working on? Passion. Like, if that's not present, regardless if I'm just out, like that's how I operate. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
So that's present. That's still there. I'm excited in what we're building, what we're solving, what's to come in the next 12 to 24 months. And then next, it's like, do I genuinely feel that my team wants to show up to work and work on the mission that we're working on? And that feels very present. So outside, like, it's great to want, like, we are transforming the way that I think people view their health, and cold being this brand new modality that's like becoming more accessible, whether it's through gyms or we launch new products. That's all there. I think I'm very focused on like our team and our building, and like making sure that all energy is harmonious and we're bought into what we're doing. And then all of that other stuff, that will come. And we'll be bigger than what we can even imagine we can be.
How many team members do you have now, you said? Like almost 200?
About 160, 170.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, being at the helm of a ship manning 160 some people in 3 years is some incredible growth. But I think it's maybe where some entrepreneurs, some business-minded people might be terrified to get to. Like, I signed up, I had this idea. I had signed up to do this thing because I'm excited about it and it's working. How did I end up now being responsible for a couple hundred people? How do you navigate that? And what maybe has been the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome, or imposter syndrome you've had to navigate, or just, how do you call yourself up higher for your team?
Yeah, the number of the employees, that just feels like an honor. Like, I show up to our HQ and it's like, man, all these people are here working on, like, it doesn't get lost on me. Like, it's incredible.
That's amazing.
I think the other piece has been, like I said, hiring good people. Like, I don't manage 160 people. Right. I manage 5 to 6 people.
A handful. Yeah.
And, and I'm probably really connecting to 10 to 15 people within the org. Then my job is like, okay, who are the 10 to 15 people they are? Are you having an impact? Like, that's where my mind goes, like, cool, I'm working with these. And then my job is like, how do those 10 to 15 people feel? If they feel inspired, if they feel like they're being called to creative pursuits, they're good people management, like, then the 160, I'm not I don't get overly worked up over. So So yeah, and it's also been like that has been a scaling. Like I've had a lot of learnings into like
I'm sure.
like how we scaled it and how it's been, what has worked, what hasn't worked.
Can you give us an example, maybe the biggest one that didn't work, if you can talk about it, and how did you navigate that problem?
I think this is like one small one, but it's and it wasn't like a code red thing, but it just gives an example. It's like we scaled up, we did a brand, like a brand refresh.
Okay.
So we had always been Plunge. We were now launching the sauna. We wanted a new logo, a new color scheme. Like that all happened beginning of this year. It's great. And really happy with how it turned out. And we brought in, our creative director and a lot of like high level individuals to help implement this. So we're really starting to build out our marketing department. Bunch of awesome people come in, and there was like we start doing new things on the webpage, and Mike and I are looking at each other. It's like this isn't what resonates with us. Like this doesn't feel what Plunge is. Like we had, and so there was a process of, even though we had done the brand distillation, we had the brand book, we have meetings on this, and we thought everyone. The early team had been not far from the garage from us. They got kind of who this company was, the pure ethos. Every new person that came in, the further away they were. I mean, we had 2/3 of the team are in this current facility we were in, which is a much bigger, beautiful facility. They just wasn't anything on them. They just didn't have the connection to like the very beginning.
You're talking actual proximity. Like they weren't physically further away? Or?
They weren't. So they joined the company in the last 6 months.
Okay.
And the company I'm still remembering this company that we're in the garage or very early, the scrappiness and what we were doing and who we were about. And that was more of a viewpoint they had. And so I just assumed the team would feel that. I knew what we were about. And then you start to see the gaps into and what I think overall they culturally understood what we were about, the ethos, but there were still gaps into like you go to the webpage and we're like, that's not the feel. That's not how our product, we want it to be represented. And so it's just conversations like that into making sure what I think someone's coming into and what my memory and connection to the company is, that how do I do a better job of making them really understand what we're about. And I don't have that perfect answer yet. We're actually going through that process now of like, I think Liquid Deaths is obviously, they're at the forefront of this. What Liquid Death is when you see it. And we could probably speak out loud of like, they create whiplash. They are like this, like they're punk, they are anti.
They made water metal.
Exactly. Yeah. These statements that are like truly who they are. And I think that's our goal from Plunge and making the world know that, but that starts in our own building. If there's a gap into like what someone thought maybe it was, so scaling that out, how does everyone really understand what it means to work at Plunge, who we are as Plunge? So
how do you feel those gaps in leadership? How do you feel those gaps in what I was kind of hearing you just describe, missing the mark of passing down the mission-driven values?
So the question is, where am I missing? Where have I?
Like when you notice, okay, these people, like they're a little bit further away from the mission by proximity or just newness to the company. I'm making an assumption here, but as a leader, as one of the co-founders here, you've got to be addressing that. How are you recognizing that it's a gap in them understanding the mission, and how are you effectively passing that back?
Yeah, I think it's providing. I have to get more clear and actually understand what I'm saying. And to me, it always comes down to clarity into like, we have the words written out, what our company's about, we're here to build resilience. Like that's at the core, but what does that mean? Like that,
it's got to be different for everybody.
Exactly.
Right?
And like, let's get into like more specific examples. So providing like better clarity. One of our core values is like being courageously direct. So it is
I like that.
Being very like, when that's the moment, let's call it out. Let's all get in a room. Let's get honest with each other. Let's take feedback. There's nothing personal here. And so I think that's been a bit of my edge into, sometimes I'll let things go at 80% and be like, that's fine. Keep moving. Like it helps for speed, but there's times when it's like, when the brand really matters, or certain things that truly matter, like not just letting it be 80% and getting in front of it and being very direct with the team. So I think from a leadership standpoint, that's like where Mike is really good at that. Like that's kind of his core, like, you know, he really leads us in that way. And so that's been work for me to be very much straight up and like say what needs to be said.
Kind of a little spin-off question here. You kind of been hitting on it, but how do I want to say this? What have you experienced this, or how would you navigate this scenario where you've got somebody on your team in your company that what they are there to do technically on paper, they're crushing it. Like they're the expert, they're the guy, they're the girl, they're doing the thing, but that connection like you have as a founder is just not there. And I know it's gonna be very difficult for somebody who is not the founder of a company to have that same level of passion and investment and commitment to a varying degree. When you have somebody in your company that is efficient at what they do technically, but maybe it's like the heart component. How have you experienced that? How do you address it? How would you? Do you even feel like that's worth bringing up? Like, don't rock the boat kind of thing. I don't want to pull this out of like the supply chain here.
It varies per person. Yeah, we have had experiences like that. I'm trying to think of like some specific examples into how we.
A stupid reference comes to mind. I wonder if it might help you out. You've seen the movie Office Space?
Yep.
Okay. Brian over there, Brian has 37 pieces of flair. You have, yes, you're meeting the quota, Jen. You've got the right amount of flair, but I would love to see a little more. She's meeting the quota, but she's no Brian.
So how we handle those, I mean, we just get real direct. Like when someone's like, first it's either I try not, like if I'm not equipped to really, culturally is like above all the important thing for us. Like we have reviews on culture. We have like, it is we call them rocks, and it is like a company rock. Like, are we meeting this level of, where our cultural fit is, people wanting to work here, like across the board, we do amongst our 5 values, like where people are. So people are reviewed exactly on that and where they're coming up short. So we have systems in place that there's a consistent cadence that it shouldn't be out of the blue. It shouldn't just come up out of the blue.
Okay,
like
gotcha,
we have structures that the conversation happens. I think it's also understand, like people are very different. Like what I mean by that is some people are really, crush one part of their job and they struggle in the other. And I think that's the case for all of us. So it's really just accepting what they're good at, what they're not good at. It's not, and then taking it piece by piece. I don't have the greatest answer here.
What I'm hearing in there is that you have systems in place, you have protocols, and you're reminding the team all along the way from hiring to being on the team, hey, here's the job, but here's the mission, here's the heart, here are the values.
Yep.
And should anything from values to the technical aspect go sideways, we're all on the same page from the beginning.
Correct. And it's also recognizing, like, so the company's grown so quick, so some of the learning curve for people hasn't kept up with the growth of the company, which is totally normal.
Right. And that's difficult to do with kind of especially a company like you guys being so well received.
And so it's been, a lot of that starts off as frustration or like something's not happening, and it's recognizing like it's not even on them anymore. Like this is on us bringing in someone that can mentor them or has the experience that, and it's the same a call out for myself is I don't have this experience. I haven't been at a company of this size, let alone leading a company of this size. So, I think that's recognizing like when it's like there's opportunity for growth here and we can solve this, or it's just like, this is beyond where any of us in this room are. And that's when we go higher. And that's when we bring in someone that is solving a problem that we are banging our heads against the wall, and they can come in and kind of move mountains.
Besides cold plunging, besides a cold shower, besides cold water, what's one thing that you do daily to microdose adversity, like we were saying earlier? What's one thing you do to level up every day?
I sweat every day. Like that's just like a hack for my body. Like
Meaning like you're working out?
I work out, I sauna, like right now my thing is I work out first thing in the morning. Like I've built a system with trainers and like, it's just what I do. I get up and
why, or else it doesn't happen kind of thing.
yeah, it's just what I've hacked for myself that I don't get into work. I don't have to, even since I have someone like coaching me, I don't even think. Like I just get in and move my body.
You're like, hey, if I could just show up, I can do the thing.
I can do the thing.
Yeah.
I can sweat. They take me to my edge. And so that's my season right now. And then the daily is thankfully that like the job itself right now is kind of my micro adversity. Like it's the season that I'm in. It's the roller coaster, and I go in and I feel like it's like an adrenaline. Like 9 a.m. hits. Like my day's usually blocked until 9. I strap in at 9, and it's kind of like, whew, here we go. Like my day, meetings all day or whatever, calendar's booked out, and then 5, 6 o'clock hits, and I kind of come back out of it. And so it's more of like, okay, that's what my life is right now, and I love it, and it's not going to be forever. It's what is happening right now. And then outside of that, like, okay, how am I like regulating myself? How am I like actually calming down? Like I'm getting my workout in first thing, so that's done. And then the rest is like, okay, you've had your day of adrenaline and kind of this adversity that's been showing up. What are you doing to kind of wind down and stay calm and then get ready to do it again?
In many ways, taking care of ourselves can be a very free and easy thing to do. But when we look at these advanced recovery modalities, we'll say, of IR sauna, cold plunge, drip therapy, so many exclusive clubs and things popping up now, it's, I think, able to serve a lot of people. But let's be honest, there is barrier to entry in terms of accessibility, cost. Sometimes you got to be invited to these things, So how can something exist that's objectively can serve the masses, but there is still that kind of wedge now being presented to some people to access that?
Yeah, I think.
How are you navigating that? I think there's a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's the like the thing that's on an echelon is the tub itself. It's like cold water. Let's just take cold plunging.
Yeah.
It's just water.
Yeah.
It's cold water.
Yeah.
Most of us have access to some water. Like before I had the cold plunge, I had a river that I would go get in the river, and
doesn't get much more free than that.
And that it worked. It was great. There was a commercial facility that I was able to get a pretty cheap membership to, and I would go cold plunge there. That was kind of how I went between it. So there are ways to do it. I think, there is a premium on you buy a plunge tub, and you're buying, what you're buying at that point is you're actually buying convenience. Like you're buying to not have ice, you're buying to have it on demand and clean for you, and you walk out your back door and it's there. And that is a luxury. Not everyone can afford that. Totally get that. And what's cool is we're kind of taking normal elements, heating, cooling. Like you can find places to do this. I think it's really just how much you like, what is your priority in life? And making that a habit, making that consistent in your life. I mean, from a company standpoint, our goal is to, we want to have cold plunges at all different price points, all different styles. That's what we're solving. That's what we're setting out to do. We just launched our newest premium one. That's like our premium product, but that's just the beginning. And we will, we want to hit different avenues of people at different spots. First, whether you're on your own personal financial level, and I get it. It's like $5K. Even if you have the money, it's like, I've never really done this. Am I spending $5K out of the gate? How do I try this? So creating avenues that people can feel really good about their purchase before they make that purchase.
Or even probably shifting the perspective or the mindset of this is a cost versus an investment.
That's the best part of our product is like, once people buy it, it's like, I never hear about the money situation. Yeah. It's one of those, and I can relate to that, like health and wellness stuff. Like I don't ever think twice on those type of expenditures. I'll buy a pair of shoes or clothes or something like that. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I got this. But majority of things that are like from a true health pursuit, I've really never second guessed. And so, yeah, I think making it part of it's just like teaching the world like that these tools are actually out there, not just from a cold plunge, but other ways to make them that you can get access to these. Our big thing, what I'm excited on for us is we have now a really legit commercial unit coming out. Really? And so that's a big focus in our company of going after and getting these products into like every gym in America and getting this out. So it's like that is an entry point for a lot of people that haven't had access.
Right. You're already paying.
Yeah, you're 40, 60, 80
membership.
bucks.
You can get access to this now.
You start cold plunging. And then, you can start to make better educated decisions on, do I actually want to bring this into my life, spend a little more and have this at my house? So that's a route that I see of this becoming way more accessible for people that hasn't really happened. It feels like it's all the rage and we feel like it's everywhere. But in reality, like maybe you more so, but I would assume not a lot of people in your network actually have a cold plunge.
No, I wouldn't say a lot, no. I would say a lot. No.
And you're probably at the upper tier.
This is my world.
Exactly.
Basically. Yeah.
Like you are living this. Yeah. So it's like I
can name a few, but I wouldn't say a lot.
So I get excited with like I go walk the floor, at least one night a week where I go out, it's all dark, and I go read the names that are on the plunges. And what I like to do is, I see John from Arkansas getting his unit. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, like this is going to this neighborhood that there's no cold plunge in this whole neighborhood. Wow. And John now is going to have his friends over and this is going to be their Sunday activity.
Dude, there's the big vision.
That is the shit that just lights me up, where it's the ripple, like, and then now that's going to be his family's activity, this new thing. Someone else is going to start. And then it's always this like unknown person that starts to cold plunge and they resonate right like that. And they're like, it changed my life. And then they get the cold plunge. And then it's like, that's a true like ripple that, of impact and change.
Well, I can tell you guys this. You are doing a lot more deliveries, because when they delivered mine, the FedEx guy was like, man, that's like the fourth one today. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, dude, they're like crazy popular right now. Yeah, he was like from Santa Monica to over West Hollywood. And he was like, yeah, you're my fourth or fifth one today.
FedEx makes a lot of money from
us. Bet, man. I bet. Yeah. Ryan, kind of getting to a close here, man. I love this conversation, kind of keeping it around. We didn't really dive into the science of cold plunging. I'll save that for another episode. But honestly, thank you for sharing all your vulnerability around the story and, being a leader and like the origin of it and how you're navigating that, but still fulfilling your own vision and purpose. And, I think it's an important thing to note that, and I've heard you say this in another podcast, when asked about all the health benefits, you seem to kind of just go, man, guys, I feel good, I feel good. And I love that. And even someone like myself that, I went to college, I went to grad school, got all these certifications, I did this job, I keep a lot of my content around being able to provide the scientific backup for it. But look, ultimately, people, at the end of the day, do you really need to know about all that stuff, or just go, hey, I'm a dude, this is how I approach it, I feel better? Like, can that just be enough?
Totally.
Can that just be enough?
That's, for me, it's always like, as I've gotten into this journey, it's like I've gone, a lot of interviews, they want the science. And so I can go parrot the science. It actually feels inauthentic though, because I'm kind of just reading from a doc. Like my more message is like, I have a happy life and this is one of the core things that I do. Right. And I attribute this to that. That's my body of work. And that's like so that's authentic to me. I could give you, go check out Dr. Andrew Huberman, Dr. Susanna Soyberg, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Luisa Nicola, these people out there that are studying this more, go get on their webpage, go to Wim Hof's webpage. He has all the studies. Like, that is the spot if you're looking for it. There's so much good info out there. If that's the angle you're looking for.
I'm with you. I think ultimately people, if we get very real about the questions we're asking, do we really need to know the science? Maybe for some reason, but ultimately what we're really trying to get at is like, how are you? Like, you seem happy, you seem healthy, you're doing all these things. The science aside, like, this is one of the many things I do to contribute to my physical and mental resiliency. And I think that's what most people are after. We just get bogged down in the details in the journey. Mm-hmm. Well, all these things definitely help propel us forward in life. You're definitely going to move forward out of that cold water very damn fast. But that's what we're about here at Everforward Radio is what are the things that we can do, we can maintain, we can do more of, do less of to move us forward in one or all areas of life. When you hear those two words, Ryan, Everforward, what does that mean to you? How do you think you live a life Everforward?
Just keep getting up and keep going. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, no matter how hard it gets, it's like life's going to move on. Like things keep going. It's going
to go on without you.
Yeah, it's going to go on without me.
Yeah,
and not to diminish all of like the issues and challenges like we face, and some are more, it's also never as big as like, I don't want to say I'll speak for myself, like as I think it is. And so that's very comforting to me. And so that's just like, what other choice do you have to take the next step? So, yeah, ever forward, just one step at a time, keep going, don't overthink it. And we have all the tools to keep moving.
What other choice do we have? I love it. Yeah, it reminds me of this phrase, a quote from Seneca, I think, big Stoic philosophy fan guy. And we suffer far more in imagination than in reality. Except when you're in a cold plunge. Then your reality and your imagination are kind of the same suffer level, but
the imagination
but at least you're choosing
in the cold
same
plunge,
page.
I like not many other thoughts come into me when I'm in the cold plunge.
That's very true.
Like
it's just for me, it's just breath.
Just
breathe.
Hyper presence.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Well, Ryan, love what you guys are doing at Plunge. I've been loving mine. Where can people go to learn more about, you, what you guys are doing with Plunge? I know you got some new products coming out. Of course, I have everything listed in the show notes for everybody, but where can they go to learn more?
Plunge.com is everything about Plunge, and find us on the socials. If you type in Plunge or cold plunge, we'll show up.
Yeah, you can't open up social media these days and not see somebody show up with a plunge. So literally just open up your phone, everybody. Yeah.
Yep.
Ryan, this was great, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.